We're living in a time of immense volatility, where so many wars are happening, more than any other time after World War II. Satellite states are being formed between countries with similar goals. Governments having an extremely difficult time in the West to regulate AI. Governments grappling with very difficult deficits that they must pay back. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what I like to call the perfect storm. Just like any other storm, if you prepare for it correctly, then you will come out the other side better than everybody else. But if you don't, and if you ignore it, then you will come out the other side battered and bruised. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. Or maybe this is the eye of the storm that we're in today. You see, AI has existed for about 70 years. It started in Dartmouth College as a research project by these gentlemen here on the screen. This picture was taken about 20 years ago. Unfortunately, none of them are still alive today. But they did leave behind a legacy where traditional AI was eventually built, even after many AI winters, where for periods of even 8 years, nothing truly really happened. I remember when I was running some of the world's largest AI programs at Citigroup, United Health Group, and others, it was very difficult to do anything really huge with AI. We had to hire hundreds of data scientists, engineers, and everything was really for the sake of science, never really for the sake of return on investment. I remember even for creating an algorithm for writing NDAs, we had to train it on 10,000 NDAs over a period of 6 months. We had to use the power of over 150 people in order to manually tag all those things, all because we had to build machine learning models and algorithms completely from scratch. Of course, that project never broke even. It was never profitable. And that's the reason why most of you and most of the world hasn't really heard about AI until very recently. We now live in the world of generative AI. Most of you probably remember ChatGPT 3 when it came to the scene, almost 3 years ago. But the invention of vectorization and transformer actually existed about 18 months before OpenAI came to the market. And this is something not a lot of people know, but actually Google was the pioneer in this technology. And they had this technology in their hands for a good 18 months before OpenAI came to the market. And they never did. The reason was they knew that this was going to be the end of the search engine, their very business they relied on so much. Already, we're starting to see a technology called super narrow AI. What is super narrow AI, you may ask? These are AI technologies that can do a specific thing better than any human. I'll give you a couple of examples. There's about 120 super narrow AIs that exist today. I helped develop 12 of those. One of them was an AI that can read CT scans, X-rays, any type of imagery scans for hospitals better than any radiologist and better than any doctor. Another example would be self-driving cars. If regulators allowed them to use all of their features, the average miles before they reach an accident is about 1 million miles, whereas a human drives 100,000 kilometers and has an accident on average. So already, we have super narrow AIs that can do specific things better than any human. And it's a collection of this that's going to help us build AGI. Now, I know that this term AGI is a little bit loose. So a couple of months ago, I did meet with Jensen Huang and some of the leaders of the LLM models in order to help come up with what is the right explanation of what AGI is so that the World Economic Forum and other organizations can disseminate the right terminology for AGI and ASI, artificial superintelligence. I'll briefly mention the difference to you. AGI is the textbook worm that remembers everything it's ever read and is able to join up that information in a way that it's able to disseminate information and push it together so that it can then come up with concepts, but not new concepts, existing human concepts. The definition of artificial superintelligence, ASI, is an AI system that can come up with new methods, new approaches to science, to physics, to maths that humans had not invented before. It's creating new things that humans have not invented. That is the key to ASI. ASI is most likely not coming for at least another 15 years or more. Some scholars say it will never arrive. But one thing I've learned in my lifetime is you never say never. So, how long is it going to take for AGI to arrive? Next year. Many of you probably thought AGI will be coming in the next 2 or 5 years or maybe even longer. But I would argue that we already have forms of AGI. I get access to a lot of these systems 6 to 12 months before they go to market, and already I'm seeing very powerful AGIs which are available today. I'll explain that more a little bit later. You see, we keep focusing on the word AI. It is the sexiest topic right now. But we need to recognize that in the world of technology itself, there is an awful lot else going on. We have incredible examples of sensors, such as IoT devices, being connected to LLM models in order to do incredible analytics. I was working with Shell just a couple of months ago, looking at their 50 million IoT devices and how they could manage offshore assets remotely using AI and robotics. When we look at the advancement of data and data exchanges and how well that's evolving, we're seeing multiples improvement every single year of how quickly you can exchange data. Satellite data exchanges being online already, with Starlink and many others coming on board soon. When we look at memory chips, processors, all of them are getting better at magnitudes every single quarter. It's not even every year yet. Everything is accelerating in the world of technology, and all of this is coming together to create the perfect storm. Again, I think you should look at this as an opportunity and not as a threat. Many great things will happen as a result of all of these technologies converging together. Last but not least, humanoid technology. There's over 100 companies on Earth today with over $100 million in funding for building robots. We've got Boston Dynamics, we've got Tesla, we've got many others, with over 80% of the components and manufacturing happening in China, interestingly enough. Over the next couple of years, humanoid technology will combine with AGI in order to allow AGI to put the theory that it learned in books and websites into practice, into the real physical world. And this is exactly what's happening at the moment with NVIDIA. NVIDIA's second most important project after making chips is digital twin. They've managed to copy the entire Earth, to copy physics. How does wind work? How do objects fall? How do things break? Everything in our physical world has been copied already into digital twin by NVIDIA. Many companies in manufacturing, such as Mercedes and many others, have given NVIDIA the data it needs in order to completely simulate their factories, simulate how things should be done. The reason why this is so important is because simulation is going to allow us to build AGI. And in a few moments, I'm going to prove to you how AGI is being built and why it's already here and why different versions of it is going to be coming out next year. As I said a couple of months ago, I spent 2 days with Jensen Huang, one-to-one, and with the heads of all the other large LLM companies. And a couple of key themes came out from that meeting. It is that in the world we live in today, the media loves to tell us that we're going to run out of energy because of the data centers we need to power AI. But at least for the next 12 to 18 months, we have enough energy to power all the data centers which are coming online. This is not going to stop AI. Many companies in that meeting also presented to us very interesting use cases of how AI is being used in order to revolutionize their businesses. We saw examples from oil and gas, from manufacturing, from sports, from all walks of life. And this year, you're going to start seeing a lot more case studies coming out of how AI is driving real return on investment and truly transforming different industries. Another thing that we saw is that this year is really the year of execution. A lot of executives of very large companies have been promising their shareholders tremendous value with AI, but haven't quite delivered on it just yet. And there's a few reasons for that, which I'm also going to discuss today. I see a lot of executives losing their jobs this year because they're not able to deliver what shareholders and others are expecting from them when it comes to AI. So watch out for that. The key thing that came out from our meeting is really that we need very strong leadership in this time of highly uncertainty and high volatility. It's very important for leaders to lean in, to understand what this revolutionary technology is, and to reimagine their organizations and lead the company towards that. And as we'll see today, many leaders are failing to do this. So if you're heading up your organization, one of the key things I would recommend is to really learn about this topic. Don't push it under the carpet anymore. It's here to stay. And the reason why I'm saying that is that there's over $3 trillion committed to AI over the next 5 years. Ladies and gentlemen, that's 3 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0. That's a lot of zeros. That's a few more zeros that are in my bank account, and most of us, hopefully, in this room. If we stack up $3 trillion in $20 bills, it will reach a height greater than 16,000 kilometers. The Earth's diameter is 12,700 kilometers. It can wrap around the world once and then some. Just imagine that. And this is why I've put this cool picture for you to visualize it. The reason why I'm telling you this is not to impress you with a number. It's to make you understand that when there is so much money being put behind something, there's only two outcomes. One, it's going to be as magical and as amazing as we think it is, and therefore the world will be transformed, it will change. Or two, it's going to happen anyway, because investors have to get a return on their investment. So for those of you who think that AI is a bubble, which it is, it will deflate a little, but it's definitely not going away. If you're sick of the word AI as well, guess what? More AI is coming, and the topic is going to get even bigger as we reach AGI next year. So it's really important that you get real comfortable with this topic and you actually start learning how it is and what it can do for your organizations and companies and for the sport of racing, because this truly, truly is transforming industries. So let's talk a little bit about how this is transforming from having AGI into generative AI into AGI. You see, generative AI is built by basically brute forcing a lot of data on top of a lot of compute power, and then allowing the algorithm to find patterns. And that's how generative AI is essentially formed. That's why we have so much hunger for data centers and so much hunger for data. But you see, AGI cannot be built in this way. AGI needs to have context. AGI needs to have experience of the real world for it to be truly AGI. This is why this year, Microsoft and many other companies, they've started to push out agents. Some of you perhaps have heard of Claudebot and some other similar agents which are very hot right now in the market. Agents that can do things on the computer screens for you, just like it was a normal person working on the computer screen. So what's happening right now is we're getting generative AI to experience the real world. Firstly in computers, inside of the computer screen, through agents, and then very soon through applying it to robotics. Already a lot of robotics companies are downloading LLM models into robots so that when they experience the real world, they're able to do it better than without it. The production of very realistic and capable humanoids today is about 30,000 robots being produced around the world. This will go up to over 100,000 by the end of this year. And as AGI already technically exists, and we'll talk about that in a second, and it's getting more and more powerful with agents learning the real world through computer screens, once we start downloading that information and that capability into humanoid robots, they'll be able to apply that into the physical world. We'll be able to have robots to do firefighting and dangerous jobs in the beginning. And then over time, that will translate into more normal jobs as they get cheaper to produce. But it is the combination of agentic through computer screens and downloading these models into humanoid robots that AGI will be built over the next year. I would argue that AGI is already here. I'm sure a lot of you, when you have a health problem, when you're writing something in particular, you're using ChatGPT or Gemini or something like that. I hear a lot of people laughing. It is, in my argument, that AGI is already here from a normal text point of view. I mean, whenever I've had a health problem, I've gone to my AI model first before going to a doctor. And then when I turn up to the doctor, I'm much more informed than I was before when I just had Google. But as agents are being rolled out aggressively this year by Microsoft and all of the key AI companies, agentic technology is going to be combined with generative AI technology to build a second version of AGI. Already, we have agents that can do almost anything on a screen. Right now, as we're sitting here talking, my laptop is open in my hotel room, where I have Claudebot working for me, doing a couple of marketing things right now, unassisted. And it's able to do very complicated things. Once robotics production increases over the next year, and we're able to take these first versions of AGI and download them into robotics, then that's how we're going to get real intelligence by the end of next year. So I hope that provides some context and a bit of a timeline for you. I appreciate it's probably faster than you probably expected, but true AGI will definitely exist by the end of next year. It's almost to the point now where this is no longer a prediction. It's just basically a timeline of delivery. When we compare humans and robots, of course, there are many ways to compare. Of course, a robot can carry more things, can carry more weight, doesn't get tired, has less room for error. But one of the key things that I think we should understand about the difference between humans and AI is that AI has perfect memory. I can't remember something that was said to me last week, not word for word, but an AI system can. If I'm going to go to a board meeting and I'm given a 200-page deck to read, I need to read that a week before the meeting. AI can read that in minutes. So processing speed is at least 10,000 times faster than a human. What I'm trying to get to here is recognizing that humans and AI have different capabilities is extremely important. Because then, through understanding these different capabilities, you're able to redesign how your organizations and how your companies operate. We give the right things to AI, which are high speed and need high accuracy, highly repetitive, and we give the things that require human interaction to humans. If we combine those two the right way, we can really enhance the customer experience and the human experience overall. It just takes a little bit of imagination and a little bit of a design approach. One thing that is happening, and there's many examples of this now, is there is a convergence of industries. I see a lot of companies who used to do something traditionally starting to play in different markets now. Take, for instance, some technology firms like Google, PayPal, technology firms operating in the tech space, but also in the financial space. Take a look at banks. Banks who are traditional banks now operating in the tech space, in the SaaS space. You can argue that Formula One, traditionally a racing, a sport organization, is now starting to also develop technology and new experiences, immersive experiences, which are different to how it was traditionally before. They're starting to branch out into a new industry as well. You see, with the power of AI now, you can build things extremely quickly and much cheaper than it was before. And that allows you to compete in new markets, to go to places you just couldn't go before. If you have a little bit of an imagination, you can quickly see things that you couldn't do before is now possible because of the power of AI. Of course, with all this power is going to come great change. My team and I did a lot of research around the types of jobs that exist in the world today. And there's roughly 800 categories of jobs. This will drastically reduce over the next 4 years as we reach AGI mass adoption to about 100 different types of jobs around the world. And these will fall under 6 different categories. I'm sure as you see the categories on the screen, you're going to be able to imagine which one that you're going to be in. But the key thing I'm trying to get to you is change is coming. Change in markets, change in how companies operate. Companies that used to operate in only one field, starting to operate in different fields. All of that convergence, all of that capability will result in a simplification of what humans do. Humans are going to end up doing things with humans, for humans. We're no longer going to be spending time copying and pasting things and doing things manually. All of this will go away over the next couple of years. What will be left is jobs around entertainment, focus on sports, on human capabilities, on leadership, the things that we should have been focusing about in the first place. If you look back to Rockefeller and Henry Ford era, that was really the time when humans were made to be like robots. One person puts in a bolt, another person puts in a mirror, and slowly, through a conveyor belt, we build a car. But that translated also into the corporate environment, where we work inside cubicles and teams, which are very well defined. A team can only do a certain thing, another team can only do another thing, and it's all connected. I can definitely see how that Henry Ford conveyor belt has been translated into modern corporate culture that we have today. But all of that is about to change. And that's why there's going to be a huge simplification of what humans do, where we're going to finally take the robot out of the human and let humans be humans, finally. One thing that I'm very excited about is hyper-personalization. We've always had personalization. When we receive an email with our name on it, we always thought that was super cool. How did they know our name? But now we're able to go into new levels of personalization. We're able to send an advert for every different client. Before, it would take hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a commercial. Today, with $2,000 or even $1,000, you can make the same type of commercials you were making before for $200,000. And instead of taking months, you can do that in days now. I'm working with a lot of institutions, some of them banks, where whenever they roll out a new product, like a loan product, they're able to provide an advert for every single client. I'll give you an example. There's a client that's been a client of one of these banks for about 20 years. They know that client very well. They know all of their data. And they know that this client always wanted to have a Porsche 911. So when a new loan product came out, guess what the bank did? They made an advert of this person going to the bank branch, receiving a loan, walking out, going into the Porsche garage, and then driving off with a Porsche 911 in Italy, in Tuscany, and guess what happened? That person went and took the loan. So with hyper-personalization, by using AI to generate adverts and images, you can create new experiences that you never could before. That increases the rate of conversion, that increases the rate of engagement, and we already see a couple of different racing institutions doing this very well. So one thing that I would encourage you is, if you really want to make your institution stand out, try to use AI to create that hyper-personalization experience. And you'll bring people that you never had before as a fan base, and you'll keep them engaged for much longer. One very sad and very important topic is going back to the leadership that I mentioned. 80%, almost 80%, 79% of leaders in major corporations today that run the world have said that they don't understand AI enough in order to govern it. Just let that sink in for a second. 80% of the people that run companies, which run the world, don't understand AI enough in order to govern it. If you don't know how to govern something, you don't know how to set the strategy. If you don't know how to set the strategy, you don't know how to set the instructions and the goals for your teams to go and transform your company. So this is why, and also because I sit on quite a few boards, that I can tell you a lot of executive leaders are going to be fired this year because they simply don't have the imagination or the grit to understand how transformative this technology is and how to lead their companies into the new era. One thing that I really want you to leave this room with is with the understanding that you don't have forever to transform. I would say most of your organizations have about 2 to 4 years to transform. And why is that? It's really because the people that you serve today, they are changing. They are also transforming. They want different things tomorrow than they did today. And that is only accelerating with time. There are new sports coming up every single 6 to 10 months. New sports that understand attention, marketing, entertainment. And they're taking the attention away from your potential new customers that would like to go and see horse racing. You're competing now with more sports than you ever were before, and this will not stop. So what you do as organizations to transform the way you market, transform the way you create that immersive experience, has to accelerate. And I believe if you don't do this over the next 2 years, you'll start to see a massive decline in the amount of interest in horse racing as other sports, new sports, become interesting and market themselves better. So how do you go about this? What do you do in order to become an AI-first organization? The key, of course, has to be education. You cannot do anything else reliably without understanding the topic well enough. At the end of these slides, I'm going to leave 2 different QR codes, a free guide and a newsletter that you can go and learn from, which gets sent out every other day. Over 100,000 people read it today, and they find it very useful. The other thing is, of course, once you have the education, try to learn the skills. Try to get advice on how to use AI. Because even though you may have read about it, you may have watched a lot of YouTube videos, you're not going to understand how to do it at an enterprise level. So that advice can really help you accelerate your progress. One thing that I'm very passionate about is you don't just go and use AI or automation to just transform old processes. You cannot be lazy when you think about the new version of your organizations. You must look at everything that you do and rethink what needs to be done by a human, what needs to be done by an AI. And when it comes to tooling, please don't just go and buy whatever tool you see in the market. You have to very consciously understand, what is that tool for? What problem is it going to solve in my organization? How is it going to make the experience better? And you cannot do that unless you have education, unless you have advice, and unless you understand what is it you're trying to change in the company. And of course, after you've understood all of that, and you're going to transform your organizations and the way you do things, you need to have the right frameworks, the right methodologies to do it, so you don't repeat the same mistakes as all the other companies before you. Last slide here, we're going to have a little bit of fun, but also a little bit of a look into the future. Over the next couple of years, the stage that we live in right now, I would say, is a period of chaos. We will eventually, at some point, reach 20% unemployment globally. As companies go bankrupt, the companies who haven't transformed. As students stop going to university as much, because education becomes free through AI models. Governments in the West don't have a lot of control on what's happening with AI. And actually, they don't want to have a lot of control. They want the private companies to progress as fast as possible. And this will also create chaos in the marketplace. Hopefully, this period of chaos and immense change will start to get better and will start to die down as people adapt to the new way of working, the new way of doing things. Lots of solopreneur companies are going to start competing with companies which have 50 or 100 people. I believe at some point we're going to need a new economic system. If you think about it, you go to work, you receive money, you then spend that money on goods and services. Those companies spend money with other companies, and the economy goes round. But in the very near future, you could use AI to print a new shoe, a new pair of sunglasses, using 3D printing. What is the point of going to a shop anymore if you can make whatever you want? So then that breaks the economy of buying goods and services when you can just go and get it yourself through your AI. So I believe a lot of countries are going to struggle with this. How does the economic system work when the systematic way of receiving money and buying things changes? Ultimately, to end the predictions of the future, I think we're going to reach a new height of human evolution, where we're going to take the robot out of the human, let the human be human for once, and then, just as the calculator allowed us to come up with bigger calculations, to create new forms of engineering, we're going to be able to do new things we've never done before. I truly believe in the next 15 to 20 years, we will find a cure for many diseases. We will find infinite sources of energy. We will find ways of exploring other planets. And we will come together as a civilization around these very important topics, rather than fighting about things which ultimately don't really matter for the human race. Thank you.